Baby, that last episode was a mess. And I decided to pull some cards on a little event that Kenya Moore had at her hair care spa. And it's giving jealousy, sabotage, projection, and both girls are guilty on multiple accounts. And I ain't talking about vibes. We pulling spiritual receipts over here. So if you want to know more, stay tuned for this tarot takedown that's about to begin.
Let's talk about it.
Shawty, come and swing my way. We ain't gotta waste no time now, baby.
People to have fun. Let's kick back. Let's get into a little tea. Let's not get too crazy, but let's enjoy the sip.
Clock that tea.
But let's get to the chi-chi, the kiki, the internet bull.
Dolly, that body looks bad.
Dolly made it after this long ass ride. So we pulled up to the house in St. Louis, and I'm like, oh.
So we pull up to the house in St. Louis. I think I finally got her accents,
That's worth the whole fucking cast.
Summer's unpredictable.
Bam.
Why I feel like she just what was she doing? Did she just come from using the bathroom? I know she did not just come from taking a shit with a plate.
Well, I'm about to go to my room, eat my cornstarch. Anybody want some?
No.
Tinker, I know you were not one of those weirdos that do that. I want to say special ed, child, but speaking of ed, it might be the lead. Y'all used to lick the windows of the bus going to school? Because that's what it's giving.
She had so many doors, I had to give them their own house in the woods.
I wouldn't be going.
Not the door house.
His name.
You can't read the door.
Mildred talk.
Okay.
I just got sprayed in the face.
Not the
God, this mission is.
We really do need a day where we just talk about topics. Maybe like Topic Tuesday.
And that's what I said.
Because the one about squirting, I have questions.
And I have answers.
And they're only like half paying attention while they're
Girl, boo-hoo. Nanny boo-hoo.
I should have probably taken the cab.
How many kisses should I give you today?
50,000.
Huh, that sounds like the amount of rent she pay a month.
You know, and when I start drinking, shoot, I gotta make sure my titties stay in.
Girl, no, that's when they supposed to come out. That's when they supposed to come out.
Like, I was a little video vixen back in high school.
In high
school, girl.
No, you did
not.
Where's the suburban accent coming from, Brit?
How you doing, RuPaul?
Now, Gilbert, you are a very funny man. Have you always been funny?
Alicia, I mean, I definitely understand committing to the character, but like, did she just start hormones yesterday? Where she put her titties? Girl, that is not a chest plate. Stop laughing, you transphobic.
I'm a T-girl from a past life.
Up next, she puts the sass in Sasquatch.
Tell me that's not Karen Hugo. Tell me that's not Karen Hugo.
Play the video.
Miss Big Feet.
What the did you just?
That's
Noel. Ooh,
Alicia.
Aubrey. Ooh, Aubrey, you're going to hell.
The Thomas Concubine video.
Sasquatch is a very offensive term to me.
Is
You
it?
must
That's
know.
all I'm gonna
Now,
see
I see
now.
that
I ain't
your
even gonna see
nail
the character.
about last night.
Yes, about last night. No, we're going to talk about reproduction. Tell us about last night.
Well, how did Letitia get into this? Well, Letitia is in this conversation, so I guess we are talking about reproduction. Oh, okay. Why y'all ain't tell me Natalie Nunn was going to be on Married to Mess? Child. So they just getting everybody from Zeus Network. Remember the season when Jocelyn was up here reading Toya? His wife is broad. She is built like Ivory, girl. What is going on, y'all? It's got Santana, aka Chi. And baby, I guess we back for another, what do I call it? Signs and scandals, scandals and stars, stars and scandals, signs and stars. Child, I don't even know. It might be in the title, but listen, we got to get into everything that's going on with Brit versus Kenya Moore, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And I wish people would start listening to me the first time, because I clocked all of this tea a year ago. I clocked all of this tea a year ago. Literally. Okay. And we're going to get into that as well. I want to get into, a bit of a recap from what happened last night on last night's episode. I want to get into, some receipts that I had posted. Well, not even receipts, but more so, I guess you could say predictions that I had last year that I put out, as well as we're going to get into, the cards. We're going to get into what Spirit is saying. We're going to get into some of the behind the scenes things, because over here, baby, we mix spirituality with commentary. Okay. We mix spirituality with commentary. So we got to see what the stars and the moons and Spirit is really saying about all of this, because it's a lot that we know, but it's also a lot that we don't know. And it's a lot that we're having speculations about. And I'm going to just say, stay tuned for what came out. Stay tuned for what came out. But for right now, go ahead and like this video so we can get into it.
Everybody's moving, people are grooving. A celebration's happening now because I'm not trying to be rich someday. I'm rich right now. I'm not trying to be rich someday, 'cause I'm rich right now.
1, 2, 3, catch it. 4, 5, 6, manifest it. 1, 2, 3, catch it. 4, 5, 6, manifest it.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. Listen, episode 5 is the episode that we was all looking forward to. I mean, it is the episode where, baby, Kenya went berserk. And you have a lot of people that are like, oh, well, she had every right to do it. You have people that are like, oh, team Brit, people that are team Kenya. Listen, I have said since the beginning, I never felt like it was about what Brit said. Watching the episode, I didn't see people that looked like they were threatened. I didn't see people that was moving in the chorus, moving into action, something that you would do if you felt like violence was about to be struck upon you. That's not what it gave, ever. And I feel like Kenya pulled a Karen moment because she was sad about not being able to promote her Kenya hair care spa. And we're going to get into all of the receipts of what I mean with that. But, just as far as my thoughts, I feel like, yeah, Kenya most definitely pulled the Karen because she knew that, okay, if I'm going to create some type of drama, if I'm going to have this event, then I need to be able to create some type of drama here so that this shit makes it to TV. Because I done spent $400,000. I'm going through this divorce with this ex, okay? So not only is this divorce swallowing me, but this hair care business is swallowing me. I'm not feeling respected at my place of work because season 15, they act like they ain't even want to show her shit. She filmed all of these scenes with Akila and the Bee and filmed all of these scenes with her hair care spa only for it to all get cut out. And then we had to go to Kenya's Instagram to go ahead and get a preview, a piece of what she had to offer the season. Okay, a piece of what her real storyline was. So yes, Kenya Moore was pissed. She was absolutely pissed. And I don't give a damn what anybody says. Okay, whether Brit Eady was on this season or not, Kenya Moore walked into this season with a plan to make sure that something happened at her hair care event. Okay, and if not her hair care event, while the cameras were rolling at her hair care spa, so that it would make it to TV and she would be able to put asses in seats and recoup on those coins that she spent. You're not going to tell me different. This lady was going through a terrible divorce that almost lasted 400,000 years. Okay, then she ends up spending $400,000, and I don't even know where I keep pulling that number from, but it just sounds right. But however much she spent, child, I feel like it was $400,000, right? And to me, Kenya, why are you even crying and bitching over that when don't y'all make way more than that? Don't y'all make like $4 million per season on Real Housewives of Atlanta? But okay, I'm not gonna count your coins. Okay, whatever. She crying over the money. She crying over the divorce. She crying over a broken family because she comes from one. Okay, so she going through all of these things. Yeah, season 16. Bravo, y'all done play with me. Production, y'all done play with me enough. I'm gonna make sure that regardless of anything, whether it is a Brit Eady or Marlo comes back, I'm gonna make sure that some type of drama goes down at my event, so that it can be showcased on TV. Now, did Kenya know it was going to be all of this with a GUN, a pistol, and all of this with Brit? Absolutely not. You can't foresee those type of things, okay? Did she know that Marlo wasn't coming back? Did she plan for something with Marlo? I don't know, okay? Who says that Kenya was even planning on being the main character in the drama. Okay, Kenya very well could have played the back seat, you know, because ever since season 15, that's when she passed the villain role over to Marla. Actually, it was season 14. Ever since season 14, that's when she passed the villain role over to Marlo. So Kenya very well could have been like, oh, I'm gonna take the back seat and I'm gonna, you know, spearhead somebody else's drama and get it going. And that'll set off fireworks at my event. And then still, boom, my event, my hair care spot will make it to TV and people will give a damn and people will want to come. But as we see, it all backfired. It all backfired. And like I said, I don't give a good goddamn. That was Kenya's plan all along. You're not going to tell me that an Aquarius, okay, an air sign, did not sit back and intentionally plan exactly what it is that we saw. You can feel how you want to feel about Brit. That's separate. Kenya planned to do this regardless, okay? And I actually want to get into some receipts. Okay, from me clocking things, okay, a year ago. But this is the video. This is clips from a video that I actually put up on YouTube that y'all can
in my heart of hearts,
listen to.
I believe what happened is that Brit ended up saying something, you know, in the heat of the argument. You be like, I'll pop any bitch in here. I smack any you know what I mean? And I believe Brit was most definitely, because Brit is hood. Brit is like a hood version of Marlo. That's what she gives. And I most definitely believe that Brit looked at Kenya and was, or, you know, referenced Kenya and was just like, girl, I ain't worried about her. I got niggas that'll handle her. I got, like, come on now. You know what I mean? And Kenya, of course, putting 20 on 10, knowing she's not a fighter, ran to the network, probably said something, and the network probably looking like, girl, now you know this is just like, come on now. Like, this is Housewives. This bitch wouldn't be that stupid to come on to the season knowing this season is about to be about her because she's one of the new Housewives of the reboot. Everybody's looking forward to it. Like, she's not that stupid to come on and then just jeopardize. Like, come on, you know she just talking. Kenya, you doing too much. You putting 20 on 10. That's how I've always felt. Always felt. Like, I felt like Brit was literally just talking in jest. Same way that we go around, like, man, I smack anybody in here. Like, what you talking about? Ain't nobody scared of her. Like, come on, I got bitches for her. Like, what the fuck is you talking? Like, that's some shit that I would say. You know what I'm saying? That's some shit that I would say. And but it's like, I know I've most definitely said that because it's just like, fuck, I look like arguing with you when I got somebody that'll come and handle that for me. Like, fuck is you talking? And when you come from a certain background or you come from a certain area or whatever, a certain demographic, you do talk like that. And I most definitely believe that Brit spoke like that in regards to Kenya. Now, did she really mean that she was going to have to come up to the set and shoot Brooklyn up and shoot Kenya up and shoot her head kiss? Like, hey, girl, I done worked this hard to scrub the internet, because that's another part of it. I done worked this hard to scrub the internet to make my image look clean. Okay, hence why I'm so mad about you discovering my OnlyFans that I thought I had scrubbed from the internet. Right, catch it, clock it. I done worked so hard to scrub my image to look good enough and be good enough to get on this goddamn show. I done made it onto the show. The show is all about the reboot season and the new girls. So I already know I'm going to be thrust into the spotlight. All attention going to be on me. I'm going to get some new fans. Why would I fuck it up? By having a shootout at your hair care spot. Like, let's be for real, Kenya. And Kenya went, flipped that, turned it to a Karen, tried to put 20 on 10. And it's one of them things where it's like, I guess, a game of semantics. Because it's just like, well, what she said was dangerous. And it's like, well, yeah, but like, come on. Like, people say stuff all the time that technically is a threat, or technically, yeah, it sounds dangerous or violent, but like, you know better. You know better. Okay, it's like somebody coming out the bathroom and then you going into the bathroom and you're like, damn, you blew that shit up. Technically, you're not supposed to say that. You can't go to the airport and say that because they might think you're talking about a BOMB, right? I most definitely see Kenya becoming a Karen and trying to flip that and make it way more than what it was. And producers laughing at her like, girl, like, let's be so for real right now. Let's be so for real. So now you have Kenya, who then goes online, searches for all of her information or whatever, then presents it to the show, expecting it to be blurred out. Mind you, I'm still giving you how I felt, how I've always felt since the beginning. She went online trying to back this girl up off of her And she found the nude pics and she presented it at the event because Kenya was so pissed that the season before they did not show any of her hair care spa scenes. And I forgot what interview she said it in. I'm gonna see if I can find it, but she most definitely mentioned it online that season 15 they cut out and deleted all of her hair care spa scenes. And remember, if you think back to the season, we only got like one quick little 2-minute scene of her at her spa in like the last episode. It was like real quick, but it was because it was boring. There was no mess. So of course they're not included in the episode. So that's why, to answer everybody's question, oh, why would Kenya do this at her event? Why would she waste her own event to do something like that? That don't make no sense. No, it makes perfect motherfucking sense. Because bitch, if I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears into trying to get up off my ass and create a business like Candy, so I ain't gotta survive solely off a Real Housewives check. If I'm putting my blood, sweat, and tears into this company, and then I'm filming here, but it's not getting shown on TV. Oh yes. What? Oh, all you got to do is create some mess at your event, and then it's going to be guaranteed to air on TV. Oh, okay. So yeah, Brittany, I got a bone to pick with you anyway. You're damn right. I'm about to use my event. Okay, because that's also going to be self-promotion for me. I'm going to get my lick back, but at the same time, it's going to be self-promotion, and Bravo going to promote my stuff on the TV. Except it didn't work like that. And that's how I felt that it happened since day one. Now we're about to go ahead and get into Kenya's explanation. Because mind you, after that happened, Kenya came out and was like, oh, I'm going to be vindicated and y'all just sit back and that's not what happened and I ain't do that and but I'm going to be vindicated. She was talking all of this shit. All of this shit. Now she's singing a different tune. Now she's singing a different tune because she don't want to be Nene.
And like I said, she started singing a different tune because she felt like, well, she never came out and said, I don't want to be Nene, but like it was obvious, like, okay, I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my job, because then she started singing a different tune, but she had gaslit the public for like months upon months upon months. There was even a point where she sat down with King, Carlos, self-proclaimed king, and had a lot to say in a two-part interview. Kenya, that didn't help. The things that she was saying on social media, that didn't help. Okay. Like everybody's going around saying, oh, Brit was lying. Brit was lying. Brit was lying. So was Kenya Moore. So was Kenya Moore. Okay. So was Kenya Moore. I watch a lot of YouTube reviewers and bloggers who talk about hot topics. I'm constantly on social media searching up the hashtag and retweeting shit. And Kenya definitely was trying to get ahead of the narrative, you know, definitely, even more so than Brit was. And it wasn't until the Tamron Hall interview where we finally had started to maybe get some answers, okay? Because again, she did sit down with Carlos, self-proclaimed king, and basically kind of almost double down on how she felt, because she was in a safe space where Carlos King was going to sit and kiss her ass, and she could paint the narrative any type of way that she wanted to. But when it came to Tamron Hall, it was a bit of a different story. So let's go ahead and get into those receipts, okay?
Under suspicion for revenge porn. I never ever, from the network, their mouths exactly, you were never under investigation for revenge porn. That is something someone put on their Instagram along with law to point a finger at me for something that was completely a false narrative.
So why aren't you on the show?
I'm not on the show because we started filming, and this is a pivotal season for Real Housewives, and they had a lot of new girls. And as you said before, I was one of the few that survived. And we were really excited to get the season started. And some of the new girls, you know, as in the past, they come on and they're trying to make a name for themselves, especially when they're not really showing up.
But that's a part of the franchise,
That's a
right?
part of
no
the
one wants to
franchise.
see a boring Housewives episode.
Exactly.
And so some of the things that come on, you know, people are keeping it spicy for a reason.
Yes.
Okay.
But when you go too far, and that's what happened, we were having a filming, and things took like a really dark turn. And toward me, there was a young lady who was new, and she just was poking the bear. And everybody knows, you know, the saying that I made up, don't come for me unless I send for you.
Right.
And that means simply, I mind my business. And
Right.
I don't start anything, I respond. So during this taping, the young lady escalated it to the point of tearing off mics, screaming all kind of obscenities at me and threatening me. I felt threatened.
So let me pause here because I have to be fair to this person, Brittany Eady. She has nothing on her Instagram about this. I've never met her. I don't know.
It's been deleted.
There's nothing on her Instagram about this.
Yes.
We reached out. She did not respond to her. And I actually don't want to litigate her actions because I do believe people don't get to respond to pick how you respond.
They do not get to choose how you respond.
But you have to be accountable for how you respond.
100%.
So whatever, which I have no tape of, I don't know what happened. You've explained to the audience that there was some escalation and some things that went on there. But going to your reaction to it. So you're alleging this thing happened between you, the two of us. You think her behavior or alleged behavior was because she wanted to make a name for herself on the show. Okay, I don't know any of that.
Right.
Take me to the salon because I'm all proud because you have a new salon. You're opening this new business, and no one is talking about you opening this business. They are reports that you had.
It overshadowed it.
You overshadowed it. Yes. This is what happened. They were saying you had these pictures of her.
Yes. Okay, let me tell you what happened. So from that night where all of this stuff happened and there were threats in my direction, and I felt very concerned. I told the producers, I'm concerned, I'm scared, and I kind of feel like they said, "Oh, we'll take care of it." And it didn't feel like it was taken care of. They actually made me feel like I was being like a Black Karen. Like, here Kenya goes again. Nothing really happened. They were joking or something. I don't take threats or the way that I felt. You can't invalidate my feelings. And it was a real concern for me. I'm a single mom with a beautiful child that if anything happened to me, no one would be there for her.
You felt threatened by some actions that happened.
Yes. And she repeatedly said, or it was said that you don't know who I am. So I didn't feel like I was being protected, and I took matters into my own hands. I did my research on her. I found a lot of information, especially in the explicit world, with a few clicks, with people helping me. I didn't get things sent to me, photos or videos that I did see, allegedly that were her. And I said, okay, if no one else is going to step up for me and protect me, I'm going to protect myself, and I'm going to tell everyone what I found out about her. It's a receipt. And before I joined Housewives of any franchise, 5 years in, we made up the term receipts, right? Yeah. If you find dirt on someone or somebody is messing with you, you come back with what? A receipt. Right. I found a valid receipt found on the internet.
So you knew that Bravo was recording your
Yes, it was
salon.
during a taping. Everyone signed waivers. It was during a taping. I didn't stand out on the corner, posting anything. It was during a taping. And we know, even with nudity that has happened on the show, they blur things out. So at the end of the day, I knew that they would likely blur it out because whatever it was that I found, they didn't like the receipt. It was explicit. And they didn't like, I found a lot, but I only showed one.
Okay, so at the salon, you have these images up that you say you found on your own.
I pulled them out at some point.
So they were up. At some point, you pulled them out.
That was one part of it, yes.
But they're up.
Yes.
Okay. And so you assume that they would be blurred out when this aired.
Of course they would. They can't show
because
nudity.
They can't show this.
Yes.
Were you building a moment? I mean, I know you said the other person was trying to make a name for themselves, allegedly. Were you trying to have a Kenya moment doing this and it backfired?
I don't think that it's a Kenya moment. I live my truth. You've seen
you're
me
the shade assassin.
I'm the shade assassin, but my moment is my life. Right. You know what I mean? So I don't need to create a moment. Right. There's a difference.
Which surprised me because I know, again, we have a lot of people and friends in common, and I know how TV works. I know how to produce a show, produce this show.
Yes.
I was surprised by the level of like aggression in this because that didn't seem like you.
Listen, in hindsight is always 50-50. And if I could do it all over again.
And this is why I'm gonna pause it right here. This is where I'm gonna pause it right here because I just want y'all to take note of that, right? Because Tamron says that her and Kenya are friends, but I guess they're not like the best of friends, but they're friendly enough. But Kenya, were you mad at Tamron when she just called you out on national television on her daytime talk TV show? Because she literally just said the same thing that Cynthia said. Tamron literally just said the same exact thing that Cynthia said. And you ain't talked to her in a year since this happened because of what she said to you during the scene. Oh. Okay.
I believe the photos were very distasteful and I elevated the situation. I've elevated situations before and I've taken full accountability for the things that I've done. I am sorry for what I've done. I didn't have to take it that far.
Okay. That's what Kenya said. But as far as last night, this was Kenya. Right. Okay. Right. So listen. Listen, I told you how I felt up front a year ago. Okay. You just heard how Kenya felt. there's really no need to get into Brit's receipts because Brit basically, I guess she denied it at some point, but we've seen the footage now. We've seen the footage and people are still questioning and wondering why, Kenya, would you do this at your event? I already stated that in my receipts from a year ago, but matter of fact, let me just add one last receipt, okay? Just to clear up a little bit of confusion before we jump into these spreads, okay? This was Kenya, August 27th, 2023, shortly after or sometime around the season 15 finale. Okay. Follow Kenya Moore Hair Care Spa on Instagram for the Kenya, come on now. You got to write better. Follow the spa on Instagram for the unseen, deleted scene of Real Housewives of Atlanta of my spa opening tonight at 8 p.m. Okay. Child, it couldn't even make it to the TV show. She had to put it on the reel, a TikTok, if you will. Okay. Facts, all her businesses, right? And mind you, Kenya is responding to a comment that said production seemed to have heavily marketed all of Candy's business adventures. They marketed both her restaurants as well as the movie that was just released. And Kenya said, facts, all her businesses, but you can't pick and choose and show random scenes that don't support a full storyline. Somebody else said, if this is actually her spa, there is a conscious business decision she's made to not have it featured on the show. The way their contracts are structured, any of their businesses that receive a lot of screen time, Bravo gets a percentage of the pie. Kenya said completely false. I wanted it to be seen because it's marketing and the show follows my life. My salon spa opening has a beginning, middle, and end. The end, opening, and completion was intentionally deleted while others were focused on what fell out of the sky. Then Kenya also said, oh, but let's not forget, they also didn't film or show Brooklyn's third birthday party where we dressed up as mermaids with all of the Real Housewives of Atlanta kids, including Eva's kids, Ace, Anaya, Blaze, Shia, and I guess Akila and the Bee's kids. Listen, you go through the comments, people were saying, to be honest, it looks like they're doing her just like how they started doing Nene, icing her out. They always do this to the girls that actually become stars of the show. I don't know what's weird to me. Production is treating Kenya so poorly. She helped make that show a success. Treating talent this way is bad for the cast and bad for viewers. Nene tried to tell y'all, I would have loved to have seen both events, but they're phasing her out the same way they did it to Nene. Now listen, Nene is a separate conversation. If you are new to my channel, then maybe y'all know I don't see it for Nene. Okay, Nene is the same person who said and insinuated that her castmates were house N-words on the Jason Lee podcast. I already done did that video. Go back to my channel to see that. But Nene is not perfect as well. Okay, she benefited until she couldn't. Then she started biting the hand that fed her. Okay, when it comes to Kenya Moore, Kenya and Candy were both being phased out after season 15. It was obvious. It was obvious. Okay, because at the end of the day, it had been time for a very fresh reboot, like a la New York, right? But the fans would have been outraged, hence why they kept Kenya and Candy on. Hence why this season they tried to keep Kenya and Portia on, because the point is to have a piece of legacy there while also still adding, some type of freshness to it. Because for the life of me, y'all cannot get over season 6 and 7 and the glory days. And oh my God, when we had this cast and y'all can't let it go. And Bravo knows that. And they know that if they just blatantly force people out and fire them, that it's going to be outrage and nobody's going to watch. Okay. But yes, the plan was always for Kenya and Candy to leave. You ain't got to be psychic to predict that. Like, it was obvious. It was blatantly obvious. And Kenya felt that. Okay. So what we're going to do now, I want to get into the spiritual aspect of this, okay? Because this is where commentary meets spirituality, right? Like I said, I gave you my opinion and how I felt, last year. Everything that I said, you guys heard, that ended up coming true, okay? Damn near down to the words that I said, okay? And, you also heard Kenya's situation, her side of the situation, her taking accountability and then her backtracking and not taking accountability, right? So I wanted to involve spirit within this and figure out what the hell is really going on. Okay, let's get the cards involved. Let's get the stars and the moons and the ancestors and spirit. Let's see what the universe has to say about the situation. And that's what we're going to do right now. Mind you, I've already done everything. Okay, it just makes it easier. So I'm not just sitting here flipping through cards. We're going to get into it though. After y'all go ahead and like this video.
The universe is P double T to the Y, and it won't stop till I wake up and realize that I am the 1, 2, 3. I am the bitch that these other niggas ain't. How you gonna escape when I am the key? That's why everywhere I go, they say following me like damn. Get back on track, look at who I am. Every day is numbered in this life span. Look in the mirror, tell myself again. Self-love and happiness is all about I got swing. Happy, doing what I please. Trying to do what I need. Whatever it takes to be free. I wanna be happy.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. I broke it down by various different tarot spreads, and just to make this as I don't even know how to explain it. This is my first time like really doing something like this. Okay, I'm new. Okay, we're going to get the flow of these videos. We're going to clean it up a little bit in the future, but just to make this as digestible, I guess you could say, as possible. I don't want to bore y'all with the names of the cards, and we just going to question, answer. Okay, so starting off, I asked Spirit, what was Kenya's true motive during the event? Kenya came in with something to prove. She wasn't looking for drama, but she was looking for validation. Okay, internally, she's been feeling isolated. She's been feeling unsupported and frankly uncelebrated. This event was more than just business. It was a personal statement. She wanted to show strength. She wanted to show grace. She wanted to show independence. But underneath that, she was struggling with not feeling seen emotionally. Okay? She may not have been expected, like the situation to spiral, but she definitely wanted control over how the narrative played out. Now, the surface vibe said confidence, but the deeper energy said, please recognize me. Please value me. Because she's been doing the work, carrying the weight on her own. And when she felt a lack of emotional support from Brit, it triggered all of those unspoken feelings. This wasn't about causing a scene. This was about reclaiming power in a space where she truly felt emotionally undercut. So then the next question was, what was Brit's true motive during the event? Now, Brit walked in guarded. Her energy shows a person who wants peace, but doesn't fully trust the people around her. She was coming from a place of past emotional pain, trying to show that she's mature, that she's grounded, and that she's aligned, but also ready to stand her ground if anything fell off, which we ended up seeing. That's why she kept saying, yo, like, you don't know me, but you're going to learn today. Okay, that's why she was being pushy. That's why she was being so confrontational. Now, she's not trying to necessarily stir up drama, but she also wasn't about to let anybody play with her publicly. Listen, I'm telling you the energy of the cards, okay? Listen, because I know when watching it, we all felt you like, okay, Brit, you might be doing a little bit too much, okay? But we'll get to that when we get to that. Now, there's a part of Brit that wanted connection, possibly even reconciliation, as we did see, because she literally within the last episode said that she was going to apologize and was remorseful at least 4 or 5 times. She said it to Portia. She said it to Shamia and Angela. She said it to Kelly in the van. She even showed up with flowers at Kenya's event and was prepared to fully take accountability, but it was already quote unquote too late at that point, right? So yes, there was a part of Brit that wanted connection, possibly even reconciliation, but she felt things was already on shaky ground. Okay, so her approach was cautious, a little bit defensive, emotional, but she was willing to engage, if only to get clarity or closure. She's trying to grow, but she still feels emotionally triggered by how certain things were handled. Her motive wasn't necessarily malicious, but it was reactive. She came in with boundaries already up, and that shaped her whole vibe, as we saw, right? Because going back to the episode, preconceived notions and yada, yada, yada. Okay. So the next question I asked was this sabotage? Yes, but not in a way that everybody thinks. Okay. Because this wasn't some grand calculated takedown plan weeks in advance. This was subtle sabotage rooted in frustration and pride. Kenya didn't wake up plotting, but once the energy started shifting, she made a choice. And that choice was, if I'm going down emotionally today, then I'm not going alone. There was a clear sense of someone feeling like they were being overshadowed in a space that was supposed to be about them. And that tension brewed just under the surface and came out masked as concern, commentary, or quote unquote jokes, but it was intentional. It was a power play. This wasn't about Brit personally. It was about reclaiming control in a situation where Kenya felt like her own spotlight was being dimmed. The chaos wasn't an accident. It was a distraction. The vibe was, okay, if the room isn't focused on me for the right reasons, then it's going to be focused on everybody else for the wrong reasons. So yes, it was sabotage, but not with a dagger, with a scalpel. Next question. Was this jealousy? Now, this had deep undertones of jealousy, right? Because it wasn't about looks, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about superficial things, right? Because people will easily and instantly be like, oh, well, what would Kenya have to be? Didn't y'all literally just learn with the whole Just Hilarious versus, the Lauren situation with the Breakfast Club? I also did a whole video breaking that down, okay? So there was jealousy involved, but it wasn't the superficial shit that y'all would think, This was emotional jealousy, right? This is envy of positioning, attention, and narrative control. So the same exact things that we saw between Lauren and Just Hilarious, and you feeling like, damn, I've been here, and damn, somebody coming in and getting pushed, pushing me out. It was kind of the same thing between Brit and Kenya, right? You had one woman that felt like, okay, the other was being handed emotional grace and public support that she herself had to fight tooth and nail to earn. And that hit a nerve. That hit a nerve with Kenya, especially when it's somebody newer, somebody who hasn't paid their dues in the eyes of a more seasoned cast member. So there was a silent, why did she get to be the victim vibe under the surface? And it wasn't just jealousy. It was insecurity, a fear that roles were shifting. The producers might be recentering the story around somebody else, which we've all seen from the editing that they shifted it from Portia and shifted it around Shamia. Y'all don't think Kenya picked up on that vibe? Y'all don't think Kenya realized, like, come on now. The whole fact that they had to go on hiatus for as long as they did to recast and get the girls that they did, and then the deleting of all the scenes and whatnot, that affects people. And I think a lot of people, when watching these shows, y'all don't really sit back and think about that stuff. We already have our opinions as viewers from the little that we know, but imagine being in the actual situation, right? And so the energy that was surrounding Kenya at that time of filming was they're recentering this story around younger girls, around girls that aren't necessarily me and Cynthia and Candy and what Atlanta was. So it's even if it's not this season, at some point, we're going to be phased out, right? And so when that fear crept in for Kenya, the emotional walls went up, and then that's when the subtle shade started flying, right? It wasn't necessarily a big fuck you. It was just I don't even know how to explain it, because the way that y'all sit and talk about, oh, energy is everything and vibes and da-da-da-da, but y'all don't understand how somebody can meet somebody and feel like, oh, you warm and positive with everybody else, but you kind of cold and distant towards me. Yeah, that's how Kenya was when she met Brit. That's literally how she was when she met Brit. Matter of fact, I want to go ahead and put that on screen before we even dive deeper into this. I'm going to go ahead and put that on screen before we even dive deeper into this. Okay, let me see if I can find it.
I just wanted to apologize and just give you these.
Hi.
Listen, I just want to say I'm sorry. I just wanted to apologize and just give you these. Listen.
As you can see, Kenya ignored her.
Hello.
How are you?
This is gorgeous.
Hi.
And that was episode 1, I believe, where Kenya ignored her. This was their first time meeting. Okay, now obviously, Brit didn't know Kenya like that, and Kenya didn't know Brit like that. But who is the new cast? It had already been announced on the blogs. They probably already had a group text going, okay, with the new girls, and you saw Brit trying to lean in for a hug with Kenya. Okay, cool. Kenya didn't want to hug her because she don't know her like that. Cool, that's totally fine. Boundaries, right? Personal space, right? But it's the fact that you can hear Brit saying to Kenya, "Hi, how are you?" And then to make it even more noticeable, production kind of they zoomed in just a bit on Brit, and then there was a moment of silence. To which Kenya flat out ignored her and then said, "This is gorgeous." Let me replay it one more time.
Hello.
How are you?
This is gorgeous.
Hi.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. What's your name? Kenya.
I'm Kelly.
Hello.
Okay. As you saw, Brit said, "Hi, how are you?" And Kenya said, "This is gorgeous." To which Kelly then said, she introduced herself. To which Brit then reintroduced herself saying, "Well, I'm Brit." Girl, bye. Girl, bye. For whatever reason, nobody remembers that moment happening. Everybody overlooks that. But that was their first time meeting. And I'm sorry, if I'm out at a club and I see that you talking to everybody that I'm with, but you real cold towards me, and then I have to reintroduce myself to you, and then you kind of give me like this dry ass high. And then on top of that, you saying things, and I already know you known to be shady. I already have a preconceived notion before I came to the show, because who doesn't know Atlanta Housewives and who doesn't know Kenya Moore? Yes. But now I have a preconceived notion when I meet you, because I said hi, you ignored me, then I had to reintroduce myself, then you asked me about my ring, which is something that clearly Brit values because she is materialistic and she is a pick-me, so she cares about marriage. My man. So clearly she was offended, but it's like, okay, strike one was me saying hi and getting ignored. Strike two is you not acknowledging the fact that I said hi. Strike three is, whatever we didn't see. Strike four is we get to the bank and you calling me a peasant. Like, I can see how things escalated that other people are not noticing. Like, y'all keep acting like, oh, it was just a hug. You doing all this over a hug. It was the whole energy surrounding it. It was very passive aggressive. But I digress. Let's get back into the reading, right? So, back to whether or not this was jealousy, right? Like I said, the producers might have been recentering the story around somebody else. And when that fear crept in for Kenya, the emotional walls went up and the subtle shades started flying. Because this wasn't necessarily about Brit personally, right? It was about who she represented and what she represented. A new chapter, a fresh energy. And for someone who's carried this show for seasons like Kenya, that's hard to watch unfold without feeling some kind of way. And nobody is literally considering that. Nobody's considering that. Which is the same exact thing that everybody did 2 weeks ago with Just Hilarious versus Lauren. Nobody considered that thought at all about being gaslit, not really told what's going on. Then you show up to work one day and then now your producer is your coworker. And even though this isn't the exact same dynamics, it's the exact same situation on paper. Here's the old situation that was working till it ain't. And now this new situation is being pushed in. And the new situation is being shown more grace than the old situation ever was. And that the old situation had to fight to get to, right? And so, again, it wasn't about Brit personally, right? It was about what she represented, which was hard for Kenya to watch without feeling some type of way. So, yes, jealousy was in the room, okay? It was dressed in the room. It was dressed as critique, framed as concern, but it was driven by fear of being replaced. Now, the next question I asked was this projection? 1,000%. Because this was pure emotional projection, especially on Kenya's side. The jabs, the defensiveness, the sharp delivery, none of that was really necessarily about Brit. That was Kenya spilling out all of the unresolved emotions she's been holding in for weeks, maybe months, okay? Because she's been feeling unsupported, judged, and pushed to keep up a front while fighting these personal battles off camera. And when Brit said what she said or acted how she acted, it touched the nerve Kenya was already protecting. So Kenya reacted, not just to the moment, but to everything else she hadn't been able to say before. So Brit became a screen that Kenya projected all of her past betrayals, public misunderstandings, and private frustrations onto. And we're not going to sit and act like Kenya has not owned up to being the villain. Like, this isn't like, oh, the villain thing was just placed on Kenya like how it is for Candace on Potomac. No, Kenya has owned being the villain, but at the same time, there's still a story and emotions and a whole, narrative that comes with that, right? And so it didn't matter what Brit's intention was with Kenya. Kenya had already decided what it symbolized. So on the flip side, Brit was also projecting because her responses was laced with past rejection energy. Okay. And I also said that on Twitter. I said, I can look at Brit and I can tell she was probably the little girl who felt like, you know, her mother always told her, oh, you know, people are only picking with you because you're pretty, right? To me, Brit gave popular type energy. So when Kenya wasn't receptive to her, it felt like, how dare this bitch not be receptive to me? I always get in the clubs. I always get VIP treatment. I'm always the most popular girl at the table in the room. I always get the guys and the ballers and it felt like rejection, right? That's how I felt, right? So with this energy, it's also mirroring, you know, exactly what I just said, because Brit expected judgment. She expected it. So she was already defending herself before the room even turned. Now, this was two different people walking into the same fire, each carrying matches from entirely different battles. Projection didn't just happen. It fueled the entire damn scenes that we saw. Now, the next question I asked was truth or cap? Who is more genuine between Brit and between Kenya? Now, this was a hard one, because both women were being authentic. Both of them were. I know that's hard to believe for some people, but both women were being authentic, but from very emotionally charged places. Kenya was being emotionally raw, but not entirely open. We heard her, you know, open up a little bit in the leaked audio where she said, I opened up to her. I told her how hard it was for me to put customers in the seats. And, you know, we saw her open up a little bit with Kelly, but not to the point where Kenya needed to be open, right? And also, Brit was being emotionally guarded, but honest in how she felt. Neither of them were playing a role, but they were both protecting their wounds, if that makes sense, right? And if we're talking about emotional honesty, Brit may have been the edge in terms of staying aligned with how she really felt in the moment. Kenya, on the other hand, felt like she was trying to present strength while also burying deeper vulnerability. Now, that doesn't make Kenya fake. It just means that she's more focused on managing perception rather than expressing her truth. So the truth is, when it comes to both of them were genuine, you know, just in very different ways. You know, one was reacting from pain and the other was reacting from pressure, but neither one of them were lying. It was just two different truths that we were seeing play out, right? There were just two women triggered at the same time under the same roof in front of the same cameras. So, you know, to anybody that's like, oh, yeah. Now, the next question I asked was, how did Brit really feel about the situation and everything that happened? Brit was emotionally torn. On one hand, she came into that event with the intention of keeping it cool, trusting her gut, and maintaining peace. But as things unfolded, she started to feel like she was being tested. Okay, like somebody was baiting her into a situation she didn't sign up for. This is the energy, y'all, okay? Internally, she was trying to stay centered, but she was hurt. Not just by what happened in the moment, but by what it represented. And it just isn't about words. It triggered emotional memories and patterns from her past. There was frustration, there was confusion, and there was a strong desire to stay in control of her image. But behind the eyes, she was deeply unsettled. There was also a quiet knowing she saw it coming and still wasn't prepared for how it hit. She felt dismissed, she felt misunderstood, and a little blindsided. And the weight of it stuck with her for long after that scene ended. You know, I know a lot of us want to feel like, damn, like Brit, you know, did that shit on purpose, or, you know, whatever narrative that people were out there creating that I see, you know, because for whatever reason, people still feel like, oh, well, Brit went back and refilmed all her scenes and refilmed her confessional. And I don't think it's that. I really don't. Even watching it, I didn't get all of that. Even the whole, oh, I got a gun. I felt like everything was over dramatized. And then it was a situation where it was like, oh, I'm going to turn my pain into a profit and I'm going to use this to help promote my business. I never felt like Brit was actually going to do something to that lady. I really don't. I think it was just a situation where shit got out of hand and carried away, right? So the next question is, how did Kenya really feel about the situation, right? Now, Kenya felt a lot more than she showed. On the outside, she might have seemed composed and in control, but on the inside, she was tired, spiritually, emotionally, even physically. She wanted that event to be a win, a moment of celebration and elevation, but instead, it turned into another situation where she felt like people were trying her character. I know. She felt emotionally raw, but she couldn't afford to show it. There's pride in her spirit, and that pride kept her from fully expressing how much it hurt. She's been feeling like she's constantly under pressure to perform, to hold it all together. And that moment cracked something because she was angry, but that anger came from disappointment. And more than anything, she was done pretending like everything was fine. And we kind of got a glimpse of that towards the end of the episode where she was just like, listen, no, I'm done. I'm done. Right? Because she wanted peace, but she also wanted credit. Okay. And when she didn't get either, she emotionally checked out even as she kept moving forward. Now, let's get to the juicy part, right? The juicy part of the reading. The question that I asked Spirit was, what viewers didn't see or feel? Now, what happened on screen barely scratched the surface because behind the cameras, there was already tension simmering. So conversations that were never aired, moments that didn't make the cut, those are where the real energy was building. So this whole narrative of, oh, Brit over a hug and that. Let me say this one more time. There were conversations and moments that did not make the cut and never made the air. That is where the real energy was building. Both women have been carrying emotional weight long before this spot event. Brit felt iced out. Kenya felt unsupported. Producers tried to smooth things over, but there was an emotional undercurrent that could not be managed with light conversation and mimosas. There was also fatigue, which you can feel that both of them were mentally and emotionally done by the time that the scene exploded. The energy backstage was heavy, passive shade, missed eye contact, awkward energy. Everybody felt it. And by the time it all hit the fan, it was less about the event and more about everything that had already been bubbling underneath. So now my next question, what was the producer's point of view? Let's be real. The producers saw this drama coming and let it happen. Drama sells. They didn't engineer it directly, but they definitely created the conditions for it to spark. From their angle, this was compelling TV. They knew the tension was building between Brit and Kenya, and instead of stepping in, they leaned back and let the emotions breathe. They were watching the situation unfold with a mix of concern and opportunity, but concern because they knew this could get personal real fast, but opportunity because for them, conflict equals ratings, which honestly is the goal of the show, right? So behind the scenes, there was a lot of observing, not a lot of intervening though. There may have been even, been encouraged, like there might have even been conversations that were encouraged to take place at that event, knowing full well what could pop off. So to those that felt like, Brit might have been encouraged to say sorry, or, Kenya might have been encouraged to do what she did. Listen, producers are messy and producers did play a part. Okay. There were conversations that were encouraged to take place at that event, knowing things could pop off. Okay. Now, let's not also ignore the energy of envy and mistrust floating around. There was a level of production manipulation, carefully masked behind, let's just see how this goes. And the truth is, they saw it going left before it even happened, and they did not stop it. They rolled the cameras and said, confirmation, y'all. Okay. So next thing I wanted to know was, what was Andy Cohen's point of view? Andy sees the situation from a bird's eye view, right? But don't get it twisted. He has his favorites and he has his opinions. He views Kenya as a cornerstone of the show, somebody who, brings both glamour and death, but he's also tired of having to manage the backlash that comes when things get too dark or too real, as we've seen with multiple different seasons of multiple different shows. I don't think people realize, how many lawsuits that Bravo was under. Like, they haven't even brought back Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip because of what went down in Morocco with Brandy. You know what I mean? And Brandy trying to, sue Andy, talking about, she felt uncomfortable. And so that's where Andy's coming from it. He's tired of being at the center of everything, but it's like, nigga, that's your job. Right? And with Brit, he sees potential in Brit. Okay. He looks at Brit as being somebody newer, somebody who brings balance, but also somebody who hasn't fully earned her stripes. So Andy is watching Brit closely, not just for drama, but for authenticity, okay? He's also assessing whether or not she's somebody the audience will really connect with long term. And that is still up in the air because honestly, right now, people hate her, but Andy also knows, yeah, y'all hate her right now because of everything that happened with Kenya. So that's why he's keeping a close eye on her, because it's like, okay, what is she going to do long term once this settles and sets aside, if it ever will, right? Now, emotionally, Andy feels like he's watching two powerful personalities go at it unnecessarily. He believes it could have been avoided, but he also knows that this kind of conflict is what keeps the franchise alive. He's not emotionally invested. This is business for him. This is business, strictly business for Andy, but he's paying attention. He's looking at who's owning their actions, who's deflecting, and who's bringing resolution, and who's the one that shows the most growth. That's the one that Andy is going to quietly support next season. So to all of those that are like, oh, is Brit going to be back next season? Oh, Brit needs to be off the show. I don't think that's going to happen because Kenya is the one who deflected for a year. Kenya deflected for a year straight, then set her ass up on Carlos Self-Proclaimed King's podcast and said what she said, doubling down, only to then go on Tamara Hall and take a piece of accountability, only for then the promos to start dropping in January, and she reactivated her Twitter and started retweeting dumb shit, and she's been doing that ever since. And then now, because this is the thing that these housewives love to do, right? They'll say one thing on camera, they'll say one thing on scene, they'll say one thing when it comes to their castmates, but when it comes to, you know, actual accountability and things like that, they usually avoid it because once the fans get involved, the fans start hyping them up. The fans start feeding their ego. And that's where King is at right now. So I'm going to say this one more time. I'm going to say it one more time. Andy does not have a dog in this fight. Okay? However, even though he's not emotionally invested, he's paying attention. He's looking at who is owning their actions, who's deflecting, who's bringing resolution, and who's showing the most growth. And as far as I'm concerned, that is not Kenya right now because she's doubling down on everything. And like that picture I posted earlier, she is still stuck in the same place. So what's going to happen next season and who's actually brought back is going to depend on the growth. That's who he's quietly going to support and make sure that, okay, they don't get pushed out. And it's looking like Brit. So the people who feel like Brit needs to leave, I don't know. Now, things could most definitely change. You know, the outrage could be so loud because you definitely still have Team Delusional Twirl that's still feeling like Kenya ain't do nothing wrong and they both need to be fired. And yeah, and it's just like it's feeding Kenya's ego and it's not making her look better. But that outrage and everything that comes with that could get so loud and grow so big to where the network might feel like we might lose way too many fans and we can't afford to do that. So let's appease Kenya and then not bring Brit back. But then again, on the flip side, they've already had their dealings with Kenyans where, you know, they were pissed at Kenya. So I don't know if they want to do that again. Let's keep going now. Next question I ask is, okay, so where is Kenya spiritually and energetically right now in current time? After, you know, filming, after everything is aired. And Kenya is basically in a place of reckoning. She's being called to own her truth. Not just the polished version that she keeps trying to present, but the deeper emotional realities that she tends to suppress. Because right now she's facing hard truths about this image that she's built versus the internal reality that she lives with. Like, listen, say what y'all want to say, but at the end of the fucking day, there is a price to pay with every choice that you make in this life. You're either going to pay on the front end or you're going to pay on the back end. And right now, Kenya is having to pay on the back end. The money was good when the money was coming in and she was the villain and she was helping to, you know, set up this franchise. But on her way out, it's not as good. What glitters is no longer gold because it's just like she's truly getting looked at as a villain. And so she's struggling with that right now because it's just like she went so bad for the character and who she really is as a person to be separated. But it's kind of hard to do that when we're looking at actual footage of you doing what you kept claiming you didn't do, only to see that you really did do it. You know, so it's a lot of hard truths that she's having to come to terms right now with about her image. the one that she's built again versus the internal reality that she lives with, because she's in a space where she wants peace and power, but she also feels like she has to constantly fight for both. So spiritually, she's being pushed to release control and let go of needing to win every emotional exchange. So she's working through some emotional exhaustion, past disappointments, and this deep desire that she has for I can't even say the word, for fulfillment, both professionally and personally. And the message around her from spirit is basically this, like, yo, it's time to heal. It's time to heal, not hustle. So even if that means taking a break for a couple of seasons or whatever that looks like, but it's time for Kenya to heal, not hustle. She's been sacrificing her own peace for a narrative that does not serve her anymore. So now she's being called to realign. So yeah, you chose to be the villain, and so now you're paying the price, and that's just what that is. And Kenya is realizing that, like, she's realizing that I chose to be the villain. I helped build this house up with Nene, and look at where it's gotten me, being the bad guy, and then now that I'm the good guy, look where it's got me. Now, just to be fair, I also asked, where is Brit spiritually and energetically right now? Now, Brit is in a stage of emotional awakening, right? Because she's realizing that every battle is not necessarily worth fighting, and not every connection is worth holding on to. So right now, her energy is focused on clarity, on focusing on deciding who she is, what she stands for, and what kind of space she wants to hold on this platform. Brit has been through emotional betrayal before, and that energy is still lingering, which stepping outside the read, and I feel like that might have to do with Kelly. Okay, and what's going on with that storyline right there. But Brit is learning to trust herself more. Spiritually, she's in a growth period. She's being taught to speak her truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Okay, she's also learning to forgive, not just others, but for herself, for moments where she didn't act in alignment with who she wants to be. And right now, Brit is leveling up emotionally. She's stepping into a more grounded, self-assured version of herself. And whether people like her or not, she's going to be real. Okay. And honestly and truly, if you ask me, stepping outside of this reading, I do feel like Andy is going to respect that. Andy is going to respect that. So the next question is obvious. Is this going to get worse, or will it be squashed? And unfortunately, the situation is not squashed yet, because there's still too much ego, too many lingering emotions, and neither side, Brit or Kenya, is ready to fully let go. Both women are holding on to their version of what happened, and each one feels like they were the one who got wronged. That creates a standoff energy. So neither Kenya or Brit is going to back down. Not first. And that said, this won't escalate forever. After a few more passive aggressive moments and eye rolls and subtle jabs, one of them will just emotionally check out of the conflict, right? And not because it's healed, but because they're over it. They'll stop feeding the fire, but the tension is still going to be there, unspoken, unresolved, and possibly edited around in future scenes to keep the peace, on camera, like if there is a reunion. But obviously it's not going to explode again on screen, okay? But don't mistake silence for resolution. These hoes don't like each other. They don't. And there's still going to be resentment, and it will not be a genuine friendship anytime soon. At best, maybe civil, but nah. Okay? And so the last question was, what's the future of Real Housewives of Atlanta after season 6? Okay? So with Kenya exiting and Phaedra returning, the show is heading into a major pivot era, right? Kenya's departure leaves a vacuum. Love her or hate her, she brought storyline, she brought elegance, she brought tension, she brought sharp wit. And that's not something you can necessarily replace overnight, right? So Kenya exiting is going to shift the power dynamics completely. Other cast members who've been playing in the background, they're about to step forward, either to try to fill the gap or finally shine without Kenya dominating the narrative. It's like, okay, now that mommy and daddy are away, not a cats and mice will play, Now that Nene and Kenya, who were the main type A characters on the show, are gone, now you're going to see others try to step in and like fill up that role. You know what I mean? Kind of like how we're seeing Shamia do now that she has a main peach, right? So Phaedra's return is going to bring nostalgia, it's going to bring controversy, but also strategy because Phaedra knows how to play the game. So expect her to stir the pot strategically, aligning herself with just enough drama to stay relevant while maintaining her redemption arc. And obviously, we already know she's going to get into it with Angela, I believe, at the finale. So the vibe of the show is going to feel lighter at first, but only because everybody's waiting to see where the new alliances are going to fall now that Kenya is going and Phaedra's coming in. So the future of Real Housewives of Atlanta post season 16, it looks faster paced, it looks messier, and it looks more youth focused. Okay. I'm not even going to hold you with Kenya going and Cynthia being a friend. This is the new Atlanta. And I've been saying that personally for months. And even with the reading, that's the energy that came out. I've been saying it for months since last year. This is the new Atlanta. Then you also have Mia that has went over to Atlanta. I would not be surprised if Mia gets casted for Atlanta. I would like to see Mia get casted for Atlanta. She would fit in. But this is the new Atlanta. The days of Nene and Kim and Cynthia and Sherette, let it go. They are focused on a younger cast. They have been focused on a younger cast, but they have not been able to do it because, fans would be outraged. But now it's kind of at a point where the last two legacy acts that they had, Portia and Kenya, Portia's still there, but Kenya ended up talking herself out of a bag, so they have no choice but to skew younger now. Like, if y'all really think they about to sit around and bring back like Lisa Wu and Kim Zolciak. Listen, there will be fresh faces. Production wants to modernize the cast and the tone. So expect a new energy that blends legacy with social media buzz. And yes, expect them to test out new queens, okay? Kenya's exit opened up the throne, and there are at least 2 cast members quietly gunning for it, okay? You heard it here first. You heard it here first. This was a reboot. This was a reboot in disguise. I promise you. Okay? Listen. I didn't even mean for this video to be this long. I really didn't. I thought this video was going to be like 20 minutes. And I don't always say that, but I really thought it was going to be 20 minutes. But I'm telling y'all. Production knew all along that what was going to go down. They didn't expect it to be like that, but they knew. Drama sells, okay? And money talks. Take your feelings out of it. Money talks. They've been wanting a younger, fresher, newer dynamic for years. They've been wanting new blood, but they could not get rid of everybody like that. You don't just kill off your whole entire cast, especially because that will alienate your entire fan base. It's like when I try to say, "Oh, I'm done doing baddies," then motherfuckers start unsubscribing, and money get funny, and it's certain things when it comes to business and content creating that you have to do so that you can do what you want to do, but at the same time not completely alienate, who has supported you or completely fuck up your bag. And I'm telling y'all, they've been wanting to focus more younger, scale more younger, hire fresh faces, but they haven't really been able to do it. But now with Kenya leaving and Phaedra coming back, now they're able to do it. Even on the first episode, or what was the second episode where Kenya and Cynthia sat down, they looked like the 2 old bitches in the corner. They did. They looked like the 2 old heads at the club that should have been left. Because it's past their bedtime. They did. Love them and hate them. That's what they look like. And love this cast or hate this cast. This cast, with the exception of Angela, because Angela fits in more with the Nenes and Cynthias and Kenyas. This new cast, Portia, Shamia, Brit, Kelly, that is the new Atlanta. That is what Atlanta looks like now. And Bravo wants to capitalize off of that. So I'm telling y'all now, this was a soft reboot. This was a reboot in disguise. Y'all sit here, Kenya. They could give a damn. This was a reboot in disguise. Now, again, anything can change. Energy is fluid. Anything can change depending on the level of outrage. Because people claim, "Oh, I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that." And then y'all be right back. When their main cash cow, Nene, left the show, everybody said, I'm not watching. And the ratings barely declined. Because they had already been in the gutter. Like, girl, So I'm telling y'all, you've heard it here first. This was the reboot. So next season, unless something crazy happens where it's just like Kenya suddenly all of a sudden takes accountability, even if she did, I still don't know if she would be brought back or axed back, because she's done so much over this past year with her interviews, with her tweets, with the Tamron Hall show, with her taking accountability, then taking it back, with her pandering to social media and Twitter and her fans, with her basically falling in line with the same trajectory that Nene had once Nene left and Nene became a problem. Like, I don't know. She might have already pissed off Andy and pissed off the network enough, because like I already mentioned, Andy is looking to see who's going to take accountability, who's best for the good of the show and the direction we're trying to go. Like, and Brit is seeming to be that way. Kenya's going through a lot right now because she's having to deal with the last 12 years and having to change. And I'm sure that there are some astrological transits that, affect everything that it is that she's going through. When isn't there astrology transit, But it's just like, it seems like Kenya's break is going to be a little bit more long-term than what people would want, because it's not something that you would get over overnight. And I don't really foresee Kenya just jumping back in next season when everything she's going through personally right now, as it's filming and airing, is her having to step into a new identity or own a new identity without all of the bad and controversy and her being painted as a villain being attached to her. I don't know if that's something you get over in one season, because to be thrust right back in where people are automatically going to throw their projections onto you the same way Brit did to her, where it's like, well, bitch, I only know you as a villain. I don't know if she'll be healed enough in time, because that'll be a disaster waiting to happen. So I don't know. Let me know. Let me know what y'all thought about all of this down in the comment box below. Like I said, I definitely feel like it's a silent rebrand. I do. I feel like the rebrand has already happened, and I feel like next season we're going to see more younger faces. And I really do believe that there are two people right now waiting to step up in that position that Nene and Kenya once filled on this current cast. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Definitely listen. 50% off on all readings. Go to my website, thealigningSouls.com, and book you a personal reading while they are 50% off. Okay, it's on screen and in the description box below. Use the code SPRING half off. Okay, and yeah, I hope y'all enjoyed this. I will see y'all in the next one. Okay, baby. This is where spirituality meets commentary. Okay, hot topics meets higher consciousness. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Okay, we're just trying to put the tea in tarot. What's going on? Bye.